How do you explain a 1-year-old dying of cancer? If you ask an ancient religious framework, you might hear a complex theology about inherited brokenness. Ask a strict materialist, and you get a much colder answer: an indifferent universe, random cell mutation, and tragic luck. For the last century, Western society has operated on a specific assumption that shedding the heavy, guilt-ridden dogmas of the past would finally set us free. By outgrowing the concept of a divine judge, we believed we would liberate humanity from suffering. This animated diagram visualizes a stark contrast in recent survey data. 9 in 10 young people in the UK believe their life is currently lacking in purpose. The vast majority of an entire generation is living without a compass. Faced with this psychological collapse, Gen Z is doing something sociologists failed to predict. They are flocking back to highly structured, ancient orthodoxies. Church attendance among 18 to 24-year-olds has spiked sharply over the last few years. Erasing absolute moral authority did not emancipate the human mind. It created a vacuum, leaving a desperate demographic scrambling to find anything solid enough to survive on. To understand why this is happening, we have to look at what replaced faith. Modernity offered a new highest ideal: total independence. The peak of success became being your own boss, setting your own hours, and severing all restrictive ties to tradition. Take the increasingly common reality of the digital nomad, a young freelancer living in a high-rise glass box in Dubai, operating a lucrative business from a laptop. No demanding boss, no dependent children, no local community obligations. Yet, within months, they find themselves unable to physically get out of bed, paralyzed by a life with zero external ties. In Eastern philosophy, there is a concept called dharma, often translated simply as duty. Dharma is the psychological tether that pulls you forward when motivation fails. It is the necessity of doing what you should do, rather than what you want to do. When you remove objective obligations, the self collapses under the weight of infinite choice. A life optimized entirely for personal convenience removes the friction required to build resilience. Total secular independence acts as the primary mechanism that isolates us and accelerates psychological decay. The philosopher Albert Camus termed this modern condition the absurd. It is the biological hunger for deep objective meaning, aggressively colliding with a universe that refuses to provide any. For the modern individual, existence becomes the myth of Sisyphus. You are forced to push the heavy boulder of your own self-invented purpose up a hill every single day. Because the meaning is entirely subjective, the boulder always rolls back down, demanding you wake up and invent a reason to live all over again. Traditional religions bypass this exhausting daily labor. They offer a prepackaged cosmic hierarchy. The meaning is mapped out, the rules are set, and the goal is clearly defined. You do not have to invent the universe. You only have to participate in it. The human mind requires an objective structure to map its actions and contextualize daily suffering. Without an overarching narrative, even minor personal tragedies feel completely unendurable. The statistical surge toward religion among Gen Z is a biological retreat. They are seeking shelter from the crushing burden of having to serve as the sole architect of their own reality. While philosophers debated the death of God, a device in our pockets delivered the killing blow to the modern self. For the vast majority of human history, your worldview was fiercely insulated. You lived in a local community where your shared beliefs, morals, and definitions of success were heavily reinforced and rarely challenged. Today, the social media algorithm forces your brain into continuous existential shock. Every 7 seconds, you swipe into an entirely different reality. You see contrasting morals, conflicting definitions of happiness, and deeply opposed worldviews, all presented in an infinite, accelerating stream. Psychologically, this acts as a subconscious death threat. This non-consensual exposure to thousands of alternate lives strips away the illusion that your personal, subjective truth is secure. Technology systematically dismantled our psychological defenses by exposing the utter fragility of self-made meaning. So we have to evaluate this current cultural pivot. Are millions of young people suddenly discovering objective truth, or is this religious revival just the mother of all copes? In clinical terms, a cope is a massive psychological defense mechanism. It is a story we adopt specifically to hide from the terrifying void of modern existence, insulating us from the panic of meaningless suffering. The data reveals a stark biological reality. The human mind cannot survive within an ideological vacuum. The mind breaks down when subjected to infinite freedom and zero obligation. You face a binary decision. You can voluntarily anchor yourself to a transcendent duty, or you can drift aimlessly and let a digital feed dictate your despair. Absolute freedom without duty is psychological death. True survival requires choosing the right chains to bind yourself to.